And now to some very different version here of the Jaguar F-Type. We move on from convertible to Coupé, and from the very basic version with manual drive here to the F-Type R V8, 550 horsepower, and this one here is also the optional all-wheel drive. What we see the difference, for example, that we got an even stronger low bumper. Everything is in this very dark and sporty, aggressive scheme, and we also have the R logo in the front, and the car sits even lower. In the side profile we see 19-inch alloys. They are quite huge, but they look a little bit smaller because they're connected with winter tires right now. Also brake red calipers as a nice contrast we have. Then the basic difference, of course, between the convertible and the Coupé is this Coupé ending here. So beautiful, and it accentuates these huge shoulders here, so powerful. And therefore I love the design of the Coupé. However, if there is a car that is available with Coupé and convertible, I would always go for the convertible. What about you? And in the rear we have the special combined AWD with the R logo, and major difference, the V6 version have two pipes here in the center one, and the F-Type R with the V8 550 horsepower supercharged, this one has 4 exhausts here, and they are split 2+2, of course. The most dramatic appearance. One major difference is, of course, the trunk, because here you have very easy access and, of course, way more space than in the convertible. Going to the airport here will be no problem, and well, that's one major advantage, but of course you then cannot open the roof of this. See inside differences. If we can see it here, I mean, we got this bright contrast switches. It's just a question of color choice, of course. And then the R interior, well, it's not that much difference. We also have the super sports seats here, and we just have an R logo on the steering wheel. But basically, well, there aren't so many differences. You mainly pay for the engine version, and you see you get some more visual stuff here. But basically, you can get it for each of the same F-types. So let's have some fun with the F-Type R. We're starting with all the stability control in place, and you feel the difference from the suspension. It's way harder. Normal driving mode, of course, we already got some wheel spin in the rear because we just have so much power to apply. But the electric stability control holds us generally in place, of course, a little bit. Let's see how far we can go with that one. If I just really hammer the throttle, what the electric stability control will do, you see I slide out with the rear, but then I just get slower. And then the car is basically in control again. And there's also the snow mode available. So if you push this selector in the middle console up, and then the throttle input is more gentle. You can control the car better on snow and ice. And well, you might be afraid having such a powerful car in such conditions, but if you really push it that way to the snow mode and be a little bit gentle with the car, it's actually perfectly fine. So there's not much problem. And if you want to really spin around the rear, you see, I was just hitting the throttle now, and not much more is happening then. We really have to go into the other modes, for example here now into the dynamic mode, to make more stuff happening then. And in the dynamic mode, we still got some of the stability control in, but wheel spin is already allowed. I'm not hitting the brakes at all, and the especially the wheels on the outside of the corner, I feel that they are reduced in the speed to keep the car stable. So even in the dynamic mode. And yeah, well, you can think about when you're, for example, on a dry racetrack, that still helps them very much. So you can slide around the rear a little bit, have some fun, but still remain basically in control. Of course, it's rather low speeds. There's not so much difference then between the V6 and the V8. It's more really like on the dry track where you can really feel the difference. Of course, the sound is a little bit different, but also mainly when you sit outside. Now let's test the track DLC. That's stability control one step pushed further away. Then I can play around with the car more. I see I can slide out the rear. The engine is giving us some commands. That is a lot of fun now. And that is a good possibility, you know, not to let the car totally freely run around, but have some drifting fun already. Oh, I really feel how rough the suspension is. Especially also in comparison to, for example, the Jaguar sedans like the XF. Here, when I let this rear slide around, wow. Gives us some sounds also from our camera equipment. Really been rough, this ice terrain here. And definitely not the best car to slide around on ice because it's not that comfortable then. So, and then there's the last step when I put in the ESC again and then hold it. There it is off. Also gives me a warning indicator. And that means full control over the car. And just have to be secure. I'm not touching any other car. So, let's go again now. Oh! Let's go in line. There it is. And now you hear really that the engine is working. And I can really press the issue. You see, I have to counter steer quite a lot. But it's also, of course, a lot of fun that if you can move around the car freely. But that's now is really nothing you should do, you know, just on a, you know, when you're not on testing here, because here, just a little bit more, too much throttle, and you almost spin around. You have to slow down a little bit. So much power on the rear axle, you can never put it on the ground. And the all-wheel drive, well, good thing. I also feel that I'm a little bit pulling at the front, but as more bumps we get here on the ice track, the more uncomfortable it also gets to ride. So we'll change the track now a little bit. So 4.47 meters, by the way, the total length of this car. And that means, well, it's a relatively short, of course, a rather compact car. And that means you can have a lot of fun also when you're in dry conditions. You see here, I have to use the brakes then here now as well, as there's no stability component. And here, when you're just sliding around, then that's kind of it. But here, of course, you can also, with such a short car, you can also keep the drift a very long way. And that is, of course, also a lot of fun. The car is sitting that low, I have to really watch the road. When there's some snow, some small snow hills turning up, that I don't hit the ground with the car. You have to really be careful with that one, definitely. But of course, a lot of fun. I mean, you've also had there it is. Yeah, you also hear the engine. And we also had the V8 on the racetrack again, and yeah, it was, of course, a little bit of a difference, but you also have to imagine this one here, the V8, also has more weight. It means it's not always good to have just more weight, and sometimes it can even better to go for less weight, for example, with the V6. What do you think about our drifting action here?